They're among the most dramatic images of this scorching summer. Wildfires in Greece, a collapsed dam in Laos caused by torrential rainfall, forest fires in Sweden burning inside the Arctic Circle, and a natural disaster declared in Japan amid record 41-degree heat. This summer of extreme weather has caused untold death and destruction around the world, which puts our own heatwave at home into some perspective. Yet this sweltering summer has been remarkable, with comparisons drawn to Britain's longest sustained heatwave in 1976. But have a look at this map. Back then, the UK's record heatwave, which saw 15 consecutive days over 32 degrees C, was largely at odds with the rest of the world. Now temperature records are being broken across the globe, from North America to North Africa, Central Europe to Australia. Coincidence? Climatologists say it's odds on not to be.
We can think of the chances of extreme weather like having a roll of a dice, and we can think of a heat wave as though you've thrown a six. But what we're looking at here now is a situation where, if you like, we've rolled six repeatedly across the globe in this particular summer. And you can't just keep looking at that roll of the dice and thinking this is just chance. The data is really showing us now that this is climate change, it's linked to greenhouse gas emissions, the world is warming.
Now take a look at this history of heat. It's a widescreen view of our climate in graphic detail. Each stripe is the average yearly temperature for central England from 1772 to the present. It's colour-coded, cool in blue, warm in red. It shows from left to right how the centuries of variable weather has been replaced in recent years by consistent red lines of warmth. And it's in keeping with the global trend. 9 of the warmest 10 years on record have all occurred since 2005. 2016, 2015 and 2017 are the top 3. And 2018 looks like it has every chance of joining them. So what this changing climate is doing, just as scientists predicted, is to make these weather events, be it sun, snow, wind or rain, more and more extreme. That extra degree of temperature, that extra inch of rainfall has devastating effects. What's the impact of extreme heat? Well, let's look at Britain first. It may not have been built for the heat, as any rail traveller will tell you, but many have had fun in the extended sun this summer, and yet the impact of continued high temperatures is really quite severe. For the very young, the elderly, or those with underlying health conditions, it can be fatal. There are currently around 2,000 hot weather deaths in the UK. The Committee on Climate Change fears that'll rise to 7,000 by the 2050s. Our industries are having to dramatically change, and none more so than agriculture. This summer's heatwave starved some regions of rain for more than 50 days in a row. Livestock are being relocated at high cost to conserve water. And farmers are under huge pressure to rethink what crops they can grow, along with when and where, because Britain's stable maritime climate simply can't be relied upon like it was. But wealthy countries like ours can consider themselves fortunate. It's the poorest that are at most threat from the rising heat, and yet hold the least resources to plan ahead. The World Health Organization predicts between 2030 and 2050, 250,000 people will die from malnutrition due to crop failures or drought, malaria and heat stress. And then there's the melting of the polar ice caps. Rising sea levels are of grave concern, particularly when more than half of the world's population live within 40 miles of the sea. Can anything be done about it, or is it too late? We know the global temperature rise can't be reversed. If we stop producing all greenhouse gases now, temperatures would continue to rise for some time and take millennia to go back down again. However, it might not be too late to stop temperatures rising beyond dangerous levels if those in power act. That's why efforts like the Paris Agreement are so important. Its central aim is to limit the average global air temperature rise by 2 degrees centigrade. Its most important measures commit nations to cutting emissions and legislating on renewable energy. And the great news is, every country in the world has signed up to it, with one notable exception.
We're getting out.
Donald Trump has demanded new terms more favourable to American businesses to recommit the US to the global effort to curb emissions. And as one of the worst offenders for greenhouse gases, the world simply can't afford to go it alone without America. Otherwise, the wild weather that has really become all too familiar will only get more extreme.